it's very easy for people to just jump in and just do it themselves, and then
especially after watching all those reels on Instagram, like build a villa in Bali with
yes.
1000%.
It looks so easy. I mean, you
It's
just
so
get the
good.
contractor and you draw up a building plan on a napkin, and you talk with Raya about
random
the rent part,
notaries.
and then then you build your villa and you live happily ever after. No.
You will never be able to know everything all the time and be always updated unless you speak Indonesian and you live here for, I don't know, tens of years and you understand this country. But if you are an investor, you'll need to find someone to trust and someone to go all these steps with.
Hi guys, welcome back to Bnbprofits channel. I'm Maria, and finally today we have decided to make our own very first podcast. And on our first episode, we have here with me Mark, one of the founders of Bnbprofits. Mike can say hello.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And we have Lana, the GM of Bnbprofits, and Sadhu as head of sales. So, as we all know, Bali is very famous about its property and real estate, like business going on. Could you tell us more about what's happening in the world of real estate in Bali?
And it's happening as the latest trends of what's going on in the market.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, it's actually, like, in my opinion, it's better than I was expecting the year to begin. We kind of were very conservative with what we expected from the first quarter, since last year and the year before that we had a crazy amount of consultation in the office for developers. I'd say how many developers we had a week?
Probably 3 or so many developers
coming up.
At least, but by now we have at least 300 listed with us.
Yeah, well,
at least.
Yeah. So I've read the statistics somewhere that there were over 300 developers registered in 2023.
Wow.
So a number close to this. So my expectations were that the market is going to become extremely saturated, and the data that we've seen for the Q4 and the first months of 2024, Q4 of 2023, is kind of suggesting that there are too many new listings appearing on the market, and we were kind of expecting that this gonna drive the occupancy to be lower than it was before, like since the end of pandemic, basically. So we were expecting it to drop a few percent, but actually reality is more optimistic than we expected, and so occupancy is at the same level that it's supposed to be for the first period, and kind of the numbers that the rental income numbers for vacation rental properties kind of being the driver for real estate market as well. So if the properties are still filling up well, then it kind of means that the market is not too saturated and that it still makes sense to
invest in the growing market. And do you think that the regulation when it comes to the visa and the kitas has something to do with the growing market of real estate here in Bali?
Well, it's generally it's a joint effort of the government and the consciousness of the investors here, and the national government in Jakarta and the local government here in Bali, and to make the investment climate. So I think the government could actually do more, but at this stage I would say at least they don't make the situation worse with the regulation. So I think it's pretty stable.
It's pretty stable
in my opinion. I don't think we're seeing too much support in the investment climate and in new visas, but we're also not seeing complete lack of the support. Infrastructure is where I think the government should be putting their attention to.
Yes, especially with the tourism coming up, the road access is just getting crazy. I don't think in terms of sustainability, the amount of growth of tourism and people coming here to live and work. That's why it's quite important to look elsewhere in terms of where the areas are coming up next instead of just focusing on the same one over and over again.
I see.
It's overpopulated, to be honest with you.
So we're talking about areas. So could you like give us a little picture of where is like the hot areas right now in Bali?
Well, where our office is, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
Canggu.
our office is. You can look at the link below.
Yeah.
Come and see us.
Yeah.
Maybe there's Maria too.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes. Yeah, so as we all know, I think everyone knows about Canggu, Seminyak. People are also going, I don't know, to the Bukit or something. But since the hot area is in the like Canggu, Seminyak area, but now the price is way too high. Do you know like the possibility of where it's gonna like grow to which part? Maybe somewhere around Canggu or Kerobokan. What do you think?
Well, I think if we look statistically, right, historically, that the kind of the development and the whole hospitality and vacation rental sector kind of picked up from where airport is, so around Kuta and Jimbaran, and then kind of crawled along the west coast to the north. In Seminyak was the hottest spot 10 years ago. Then we've seen how Canggu, like the rise of Canggu. I remember, my friends staying in Canggu in 2013, and I would come over and just ask them, why would you stay in the middle of nowhere? So 10 years ago, it
That
was just...
only 10 years ago.
Yeah, there was no light on the street, so it was complete darkness after 7. There were no restaurants, I think, except for maybe Bitona just opened there. And Bravo was just it was a empty land and rice fields left and right. There's a really cool feature in Google Maps that you can open and go to Google Street View and then see historically.
Okay, I've never tried it before.
It's amazing. So they have the data stored from 2013, and you can go to the most renowned intersections, like where BGS is in Echo Beach, or where Deus is in Batu Balong or in Brava, and just see how this place was looking 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and you would see these drastic changes that are happening in terms of the development of infrastructure and everything, and the villas and billboards and everything. So answering your question, the hottest areas right now. So if we look at the data again for the last quarter of 2023 and the first quarter of 2024, we can see that the highest growth is actually in Ubud and Bukit. Canggu, there's no drop in occupancy or anything, but the growth rate is not as high because I guess the base is already pretty high. Ubud have the lowest base, so the growth there is higher. And also we need to determine what do we mean by growth. Is it the number of units that are available for rentals? Is it the real estate projects that are available for purchase? Is it we cannot really tell the volume of tourists coming, I guess. So we need to see what do we mean by growth. I guess it's a combination of the new properties that are being built and new properties that are becoming available for rentals. And also there are a few hidden gems that are least known compared to Canggu, Bukit, Ubud, Sadhu, and other areas that are already well known, such as Kedungu, for example.
Kedungu
Beach.
So in between the three of you, which one knows more about Kedungu?
Oh, he lives there.
Yeah,
He lives there.
I think I know slightly more because I live there. So when I first arrived there, it was a few years ago, I guess 3 or 4 years ago. Like the very, very first time was about maybe 7 or 8 years ago when there was a motocross track in there. It's not there anymore, but back then it was. And it was, just a wild rural area, like any beach in Tabanan. If you go, 1 hour away from Canggu, it was pretty wild. But about 3 years ago, when I came there and I've seen the beach and the waves, I could clearly see that it reminds me of Tibubeneng in 2013. Like the surf breaks, the local community there, the greenness of everything, and like just generally the vibe. And it's important to understand why Kedungu is different from Sese or Nyani Beach or any other beaches along the line, along the coastline, is that surfing pretty much ends in Perinan Beach. So if we go further north from Perinan to Pantai Lima, to Sese, to Chimagi Beach, to Nyani, there are no surf breaks. There might be an occasional surf when the conditions are perfect and so on, but generally these beaches are not surfable. There are no waves that are breaking. So Kedungu is the first beach after Perinan when you have a stable beginner to intermediate waves that are breaking 365 days a year, basically. So and this, I think, is one of the main drivers for the real estate game in that area. And you can also see that the rate at which land prices are growing there is just exceptional. So I think the average growth rate throughout the island was around 9%, and in Kedungu it's closer to 25-30%.
Okay.
If there's not so much, that's a lot. I mean, this is incredible, and there's not so much freehold or leasehold land left, surprisingly. And the road access is very wide in there, so there are a lot of key points that kind of show that Kedungu is a very promising area.
I see. So you're talking about like beach for surfing. So that means, I guess, most of the market, like you're targeting are, I don't know, like foreigners that like to surf and enjoy like the tropical life. But when we're talking about properties, real estate, especially here in Indonesia, because foreigners are not allowed to own a land. So could you like tell us more? How does it normally work when someone wants to invest in a property in Bali? What do they have to do? What do they have, what can they expect in this market?
So maybe here I can jump in.
Yeah, sure. Please.
Take a few minutes from you. So by law in Indonesia, a foreign person or a person without the citizenship in Indonesia cannot own the land. And I think it's very important for all the foreigners to actually understand not the whole bunch of laws about the lands, but at least the logic of these laws. How do they see the rights to the land? Because it's quite different, especially different from the country where I come from. So basically Indonesian law sees the rights for the land as, let's say, it's like levels. So the highest level, or the infinite and unconditional right for the land of the owning that land, is hak milik, they call it in Indonesia, and it's an ownership, and that right can be only be obtained by the Indonesian citizen. It's not even a company that can have that right. It's only a person, an individual, and with Indonesian ID, with Indonesian passport. And so the other levels are like also some kind of ownership, but they are limited with some conditions. So the most, for foreigners, the right for the land that they choose usually is leasehold, or they call it hak sewa, or the right to lease. That one is conditional because, first of all, it is limited by the number of years the person can hold that right.
How long normally does it last?
If we look into the regulations, it could be 30 plus 20, where 30 years is the initial term for the leasehold, and can be extended for another 20 years, but it will depend on the Indonesian who owns the land. They can or they cannot extend, but mostly I think they do extend. Or it can be 20 plus 30 or 25 plus 25, so that may vary.
It can also be secured in a lease agreement that there is that Indonesian landlord has to extend the land. Even sometimes there's a pre-negotiated terms, like the number of years that can be extended, or even the price per hour per year. So it all depends on the initial master lease of this agreement.
I see.
Yeah.
It's quite important because there's a lot of flexibility in terms of leasing a property or land. It's very important that you negotiate in beforehand instead of just jumping in, hey, this is nice price, and just buy it and everything like that. It would help if you do have some legal representation, or at the very least someone that can help you out in terms of in the negotiation steps.
And does your kind of company like Bnbprofits provide the kind of consultation services for your clients, something?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like in a land deal, a million things can go wrong. The land zoning can be incorrect. Land can be mortgaged with a bank. So and the owner that is claiming that he's the owner of the land can be
Not the owner.
All right, that's very interesting, but we will get back to that after this one. Yeah.
Continue.
So we have the leasehold.
Yeah, so there was the ownership, or hak milik, the leasehold. And I think another one that is an option for foreigners, especially for those who are willing to have the right for the land, but not willing to have any connection to the previous owner. It's right to build, they call it, but I would translate it as right to use the buildings, or hak guna bangunan. So basically that right for the land is an ownership, but it's conditional and it's limited by the number of years that usually a foreign owned company can have that right. But in that, when the foreign owned company or PT PMA obtain that right, that company can have, or the previous owner, the Indonesian owner, will no longer have any rights to that land. And what is happening is that this company that buys the land, it will have the rights at usually 30 years. First term of this land right is 30 years, and that company will own the land for 30 years. And then after 30 years, they will need to extend this right for another 20 years. And the procedure is not going to the previous owner, but going to the government. But they will have to prove that the company still exists, like the person or the company who is holding that right is still existing and still functioning. Then the government will extend it for another 20 years. And after those 20 years, this is the most common question, what is happening? Because in the regulation, it's stated only up to 80 years, but they basically can renew that right.
Okay.
The details and the procedure and the number of or amount of money they will have to pay to the government to renew that right, that certificate of HGB, I don't know. I've never seen any cases, but I'm not sure that it's going to be like buying again this land. So basically it's going to be some kind of amount of money that you'll have to pay for the administration fee or some kind of those things. But the most important thing, and it's I see that for some foreigners it's very important, that that land is not somehow connected to the previous owner. So they just following the procedure that the government stated that they have to do this and that. And there are a bunch of other rights like hak pakai or right to use also can be obtained by the foreigner individual. It's a bit similar to the leasehold, but it's different in matter of that for the leasehold you have an agreement issued by the notary. In the case of hak pakai or right to use, you will get the certificate for the land, and not all the lands can be issued this right.
Okay.
So it depends. It really depends on the land office of that region. In Bali, precisely, for all I know, you can get the hak pakai if the land is if the price of the land is more than 5 billion rupiah. So it's kind of big land or a big house.
So for your clients, normally, especially for villas, you would recommend the leasehold.
In my opinion, leasehold is the most straightforward and safe way of owning, because the thing is that what's related to HGB and the other ownership for the companies, since these laws and regulations are relatively new, they haven't been properly applied yet. So the legal practice for this, it barely exists. That's why if you go to a number of different consultancies in Bali, you will get a number of different opinions.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's really a broad explanation of how the laws will actually apply. So in my personal opinion, from the investor perspective, if you are small size investor of like under a few $1 million, let's say, I would definitely recommend doing leasehold because it's just so safe and so transparent, and everything comes back to whatever your master lease agreement with the owner of the land says, and how it's structured and how well it's made. And then for this, of course, you can have a proper due diligence, and our company will be glad to assist with all kinds of legal consulting on this. But if you're a bigger investor, if you're building a hotel and you're looking at a longer return span, 10 years and more, then of course it makes more sense to go for the ownership of the land.
I see. And so exactly how long have you been in this industry in Bali?
Oh, generally in the industry, I think about 10 years.
10 years. So within this 10 years, what are the most common problems that can come up when it comes to, from leasehold, building, or, just basically managing property in Bali? Could you tell us more about it?
For me, mostly it's a lack of information in terms of that one. It's very easy to hear a lot of things in terms of, hey, Bali is booming. It is. It's very easy to make money here and build your own villa and everything like that. It's very easy for people to just jump in and just do it themselves. And then,
especially after watching all those reels on Instagram, like build a villa in Bali at 1,000%.
It's so easy. I mean, you just get a contractor and you draw up a building plan on a napkin, and you talk with Raya.
Get around the notary.
And then you build your villa and you live happily ever after.
Yeah.
No. Unfortunately, it's not a fairy tale. It's a real world.
Firstly, it's I don't know. Perhaps you guys can enlighten a little bit more about this. For my assumption is that for foreigners to come in and see Bali, the first impression is that you would be afraid of their legal system because it's very different compared to other. The only similar one would be Netherlands because we hold the same, more or less. But other than that, other countries would be a lot different.
I mean, I think a gazillion things can go wrong.
Right.
If you're just buying real estate as an investment, for example, like every developer will tell you that their project is the best and it gives the highest ROI and has the best building quality. And if you go to real estate agencies, they will also try to sell you the projects that, they get the highest commission for, most likely. So it becomes really confusing, like if everyone is promising the exceptional return and the exceptional build quality and everything. Like how do you make a choice in this case? And also, if you're trying to do a project yourself, how do you actually find a way around this, yellow land, pink land, green zone, leasehold, freehold, extensions, and so on? So it may seem overwhelming. And, you didn't even get to the construction side of things yet because it's incredibly hard to find credibility and accountability in this realm of building, because like if you just try to find a contractor in Google, you'll get a quote that's gonna look extremely attractive, and then you get into a building process, and then turns out that this quote is completely irrelevant because there are things that you need to redo multiple times, and I'm sorry, Pak, we thought that this is not included, and I mean you end up spending much more, and your construction time frames, instead of being promised 10 months, is going to be 24 months, and so on. So it's so many things and so many moving parts in this that can go wrong. So it does seem confusing. So it's important to get spend more time for a proper research, for a proper due diligence, learning things and talking to experts.
See, do you want to add?
Yeah, if we are talking about what was the difficulties or challenges, for me personally, I guess it would be, especially if the person, newcomer, a foreigner coming here and willing to buy something but want to save money and do it all himself, jumping into all these details and everything. I would say that if that person wanna employ him or herself for a full-time job, doing all this research and finding all these pieces of the whole picture, that's okay. That person will still spend around 5 years. So the most difficult part about Indonesia is, and it's also, from some point of view, is also the most beautiful part about Indonesia, is that Indonesia is very different from place to place. And it's not like from Bali to Java, for example. It's also within Bali, some parts of or administration or offices, government offices are different. So even though you already know all the details about the process, the procedure, the rights and everything, and you think like you figure out everything and you can do it on your own, you'll find that, for example, you do something in Ubud, and it will be one procedure with this amount of steps, and then you move to Bukit, let's say, and getting some land there or doing the same thing that you did in Ubud, and you'll find out that the notary is saying this very different thing, the administration is asking for different documents and all these things. So you will just end up being more confused than you were before you just came here. So it's very important to find a company that already has experience, that's already established, and that does all those things across the whole Bali. They know what they do. You always can get a consultation and they can explain you and go through the main steps of the procedure. That's going to be the biggest challenge, is that everything is different and regulations are changing, and the government of Bali is also changing. So like, for example, this year we still have one president and we still don't have an idea who's going to be the next president, because
We do, finally do.
Yeah.
But
Said yes or no. Wait.
all this election and how is actually happening the election, like this is the real democracy. They are fighting, they are having these court cases, they are arguing, debating and all these things. So in this environment, people have to understand that regulations will change, like not the basic law, but some regulations and some details will change. So you will never be able to know everything all the time and be always updated, unless you speak Indonesian and you live here for, tens of years and you understand this country. But if you are an investor, you'll need to find someone to trust and someone to go all these steps with.
So Indonesia is a relatively young nation.
Yeah.
And things are still developing in terms of, legislation and the government and laws and regulations and everything. So that's why it's, something that evolving constantly. So that's why, doing businesses in this country, you really need to pay attention to, what's going on with the laws and taxes and so on.
So that is one of the main reasons why it's very important to meet a consultant before you decided to buy a property, or is it
Absolutely. So people have this feeling that they come to a magical tropical island, and which it is, and it's gonna be, which it is. It is. But wait, do you go to paradise to make business? That's a question. So, and they have this. They're very relaxed. They feel that everything is enchanted and magical, and everything is gonna be easy and wonderful. But then there's other side to it that we've just discussed, and it's very easy to get caught up, when you're not aware of what you're doing, and you've made some mistakes in, for example, your company foundation or in your real estate investment, and then you kind of have this burden of of the wrong property that you purchased, or a company that you established with wrong KBLI codes, or whatever. So it's very important not to rush when you just come here and you're amazed and you are hypnotized by the beauty of it all, and you feel that it's just gonna go with the flow nicely. So you need to hit brakes sometimes and kind of really slow down and think through your next steps. So this is very important. That's what I would recommend to everyone.
I agree with that. I do see a lot of the clients which fell in love with Bali. They tend to create more of a emotional decision making, like especially when developers are saying 30%, 50%, 50% in paradise. Oh no, money. But the thing is, because for us, our main focus is with the property management side. These people who made this emotional decision ends up coming in to us complaining. Even though they didn't buy it from us,
I see.
They complain because, hey, I was told because of this, ROI should be this.
Oh, so you're like a property doctor then? Like you're seeing problems.
Yeah. So, like Sadhu said, property management is where we have the deepest expertise.
Yeah.
We get a lot of frustrated people coming to our office and say, hey, we purchased the property from this developer, that developer, or this real estate company, and they promised us that's going to be 18% return, and it's actually not working so well. Can you guys check like what is wrong in the operational side of things, or with my listings or whatever? And then we kind of we run our financial modeling. We do like a very comprehensive analysis of the property from various aspects, like building competitor sets and analyzing actually a lot of data, that our internal data and the data that we buy from different market minders. And then, it turns out that the property's location, property design, amenities, features, size, basically says that at best case scenario, this property gonna make 9% return.
I see.
And then the person who bought this property is very frustrated because he was promised double that number.
Yeah, but then they can do.
There's no way this property can make more because it's not it's not one management company or another management company that dictates the rates. It's the market that actually sets the rate for each property, and then you just need to do all things well to be able to exceed this number a little bit, and
unless you manage to sell it.
Healthy numbers, but like this person was really expecting 18%. Well, his top performance would be 9 and the average performance would be around 7. So best thing he can do is to sell this property. And this is another big issue. So we see a lot of ads now, developers and real estate agencies promising that you buy an off-plan project on an early stage and then you resell it few months later with a 30% profit and margin. And we sometimes inquire to see how they get this number, and then turns out that they don't factor in taxes that the seller will need to pay. They don't factor the brokerage commission that the seller will need to pay. So it's all like, if everything goes exceptionally well and there was no tax and there was no brokerage fee, if someone just came and miraculously just purchased your property off you, then you would probably make 25%. But the reality of things that this resale can give you 12-15%, which is exceptionally good actually. But the market being flooded with this false expectations that sometimes we get a client that that expecting nothing less than 30%.
And I don't think it's just it's because they just want to sell, or I think it's just the innocence of it. They need to simplify how they calculate a lot of things, and I mean, there's a difference between property management, which we become a partner and we are helping you to be profitable, and the other side is that they just need to sell. Like real estate agencies or developers, they need to sell.
So you don't care about the after
And well, some do, of course, some do. But in terms of their main goal or focus is to simplify it so that people can understand it better. And sometimes the simplification is a bit dangerous.
I see.
That's the thing.
Details are everything in most of the businesses. It's all about the small details that make huge difference. And there actually is a way to make 30% and even more in real estate in Bali. But for this, you need to have your own capital. You need to be a developer. You need to have your own architect team. You need to have a credible contractor. So if you come with your own capital, with your own project, and you source the land yourself, and you build the units, and then you have your own sales department that sells the unit for you. Have your own marketing department to generate leads. And if you build everything in house, then you can make really a very high return on investment with this, above 30% perhaps. But do you have the expertise to do all this? Do you have the time to do all this? Do you have enough knowledge to know what kind of project to build, how to find the right contractor, how not to make mistake in any part of the legal structuring of the whole thing? Well, it takes at least a few years living here and learning.
That's not a passive investment for sure.
It's not passive. It's free, hassle-free investment. That's a lot of work. It's a high reward, but it's a lot of work. Yeah,
that's true. So all the things that you have said earlier, I think it explains well why you actually need like a dedicated property management company to help you with all those things. But is there any other things that a property management company can help clients, like I don't know, to improve their property and something like that?
So every time we get a property owner that comes with us, we always see the property to inspect the condition of the property. Generally speaking, we focus most on the location first. Once we do see the design and everything like that, then we make some recommendations in terms of what we can renovate, how we can improve the interiors. For me, perhaps you can expand a little bit on this. It's Airbnb, it's a design game, meaning that the more attractive the design is, the more attractive the villa is, the more likely it's people going to click it. And of course, if the price match, they will get bookings like that.
It's a combination of things. So it's your visual content that you have, because essentially what we saw in the beginning is the pictures that the guests sitting in their home country up north that they see. So it's the curated content, photos and videos and titles and description. It's the reviews, which is, it's a battlefield for the good reviews. A single 1-star review will take 10 5-star reviews to recover.
Now you have seen the amazing design of this villa. The 450 square meters, 4 ensuite bedrooms, and generous outdoor area.
Yeah, and how do you manage all that? How do you keep the good reviews coming?
We still have to have secrets in our field.
Like, give us a little spill, because I'm sure everyone that's watching, they are currently thinking about having a property management company to help them. So I think they want to know, what can you guys do
to get only 5-star reviews? You need to have the whole operational and customer service parts working like a Swiss watch. So guests need to have a seamless way to check in. Ideally, someone picks them up from the airport, from the host site, takes them to the property. Then someone greets them, checks them in. The property is perfectly cleaned, set up, smelling nice, with beautiful beds and lush garden and crystal clear pool with Wi-Fi of 100 Mbps, and a welcome drink and a welcome compliment waiting for them. And then if they need anything during their stay, someone needs to reply within a few minutes, and property needs to be in the perfect condition. No mold, aircon needs to blow cold, and it needs to be, ideally the weather should be perfect as well. So no rain. Well, it becomes our part because, if for whatever reason they're putting 4-star reviews, for us it's already, kind of like a failure that we didn't get 5 stars. So it's, and this is kind of the front end of things, but there is also a back end of things, of running a lot of people. There's a huge human factor in this. Like renting property in the West, you self-check-in with a key box or a code, and renting properties and traveling worldwide. I think I've never seen my host except for like one time in Japan, in a small town. Like rest of the time it's kind of self check-in, and I don't see cleaners. I don't see any stuff there. Here it's much more personalized. The level of the hospitality is very high. So staying in villas in Bali, you get really like a Ritz kind of service. You get daily cleaning, you get concierge services, you get butler services, a pool guy, a gardener coming, deliveries to your property if you need anything, in villa services and so on. So the hospitality standard across Bali is very high. And if you're trying to do vacation rentals by yourself, having this whole infrastructure just for one property is very hard. Unless you're doing everything, yourself, you're checking in guests yourself, and so.
I think your question about why some homeowners or future homeowners should look into property management companies quite kind of combines all the challenges and difficulties in running a property here in Bali. So, let's imagine that you have a hotel with a few hundred rooms, or even less, like 80 room keys. And you have it all under one roof, and you have a bunch of people who are doing all the management, but they are staying in one place, and they are basically under one same management, and all the rooms are just, they're same to one another. And now imagine that you have one single room located in Ubud, another one located in another place, and the third one located in Bukit, for example. So it's like running a hotel which has scattered around rooms of this hotel. So for the person who is, for the homeowner or a future homeowner who is thinking that it's easy to get some local guy and ask that person to run everything for them, they're going to find it's quite difficult, first of all, because, as Mark said, the hospitality standard is quite high, and especially that we have so many properties coming into the market, which means that the competition is going to be higher, which means that all those properties have to provide something extra for the guests, because they will pick now, I want this or I want that, and they will also see the prices and they will see the inclusions and everything. So you have to fight for guests. And when you have someone who is doing all this job in the property, because this property is like a small hotel, you have to do garden, pool, check-in, check-out, inventory, cleaning, and supplies, and all the rest. Repairs and maintenance, and all emergencies that can appear, and also guest communication. And that is difficult. Not a single person cannot do that. Even that homeowner will not be able to do that, because it's a full-time job. Sometimes it's even an overtime job. You have to work like 24/7, especially when it's a high season. So basically, for the owner to run this property and not being, in debt, or not having some financial losses on that property, because you have to pay your stuff and everything, it should be combined with some other property. So basically, you, whether running a business as a property management company yourself, buying many villas, many apartments, and so on, or you buy one and then you give it to the property management company that will do that for you. And that is why. I think that's
also how Bali is different from elsewhere. Like running a property management company in the West, for example, right? you would probably outsource everything. You would outsource cleaning, you would outsource plumbing, you would outsource check-in, you would probably outsource accounting. Like the only thing you would do in a house is basically everything that is related to growth and closing contracts, right? In Bali, you cannot outsource anything.
Okay, so you do everything.
There are no reliable vendors or services for anything. Cleaning, no. Engineering, no. Like you cannot get people to come on time. You can get people to do their checklist according to your standards. If your standards are somewhat high, at least, you cannot just get this accountability. So you have to replicate every single part of the operations in-house. That's why we have our cleaners, we have our own gardening team, we have our own engineering team, we have our own pool maintenance team, we have our own warehouse from where we supply all the properties with all the items to avoid, villa staff purchasing wrong chemicals from wrong surfaces or wrong brands, or getting, some kind of game played with, fake invoices. So we have to have, all the products, all the supplies for the villa distributed from the warehouse. The only cases where we use third parties is where we have some complicated works where we can get a warranty for, like roof repairs, for example. So if we get a company that fixes the roof in the villa and they give a 3-year warranty, this is better than doing it in-house, because at least we can, claim the warranty that we have. So, and this brings incredible complexity when you have to have all these teams in-house. And if you're a single owner, there's no way, like you will have to deal with contractors and you will be having problems with them most likely. And so it's also, I think, important to mention that we have some clients that have been with us for 5 or 6 years that never been to Bali.
No way. So they've never seen the property. They know nothing about it.
They
saw it when
they saw it when they bought it, and then they handed over the keys to us, or they handed over the keys through their representative. And since then, they were just getting passive income.
Passive income.
Yeah. That is this way.
This way with money.
Basically, the only thing that they do is once a month they open the dashboard, the client dashboard that they have, and then they would see that the results of the month. They would see some report on maintenance or whatever was done. They might ask questions, but some of them they're just happy with what's going on. So this thing runs in the background for them, and then one day they can decide that they want to sell it with us, and then we would list it on a sales catalog.
Some even list while we're managing it. It helps.
Yeah.
It helps because we know the historical data of the property.
Yeah.
We're the one who manage it.
And it's real.
Yes.
Property is
Yeah.
yours.
I think this is what generally sets us aside from all other companies in there, because we have this vertically integrated system where, we manage the properties. We help people acquire the property that will generate return as promised, because we have a way to do the actual financial modeling for this. Not made up stuff, but based on the actual data, based on the historical data and our, internal data, managing properties for over 6 years. And then we can manage it for a number of years, extracting this ROI and cash flow from this property, and then put it on the market for sale and find someone to buy it who's going to become a next owner, and there will be seamless connection. So once the leasehold agreement is signed, the new property owner starts earning from it the next day. There's no gap in preparing the property or getting the listings done, because it's already earning. And like our ideal scenario, I would say, is when we have guests staying in one of our villas. We have about 3,000 guests staying with us every month. So we would have a guest becoming an investor, buying a villa from our catalog, then becoming an owner of the property that we managed, and then becoming a seller, selling this property through us. And then we repeat the cycle. So this is kind of the unique value position that we have.
That's very interesting.
Another one would be scalability, because property management frees up a lot of your time. We can look ahead in terms of where you were going with this, with the next investment or anything else like that. Freedom of time is very important to me, right? I assume everyone would have the same way as well.
Investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, time is the most precious resource.
the only that we have
It's
actually.
true.
Why people are mostly excited moving to Bali?
Bali is definitely an extremely attractive place to move in temporary because the cost of living and the quality of living, this ratio is exceptional.
So the moment the market opens, everyone is just rushing in. The moment they have land, well, they do need to do something with it.